Hello everyone, my name is Seth, and today I'm going to give you my top 10 films of 2024. So here it is. I had to push it back another week because I wanted to see if I can squeeze in a couple more films I hadn't quite yet gotten to see. And I did. One of those actually did make my list, so I'm glad I did push this back a little bit. But overall, I kind of have to say, I think that 2024 might have been a little bit of a down year, at least for me personally in film. I kind of felt like through the majority of this year, I had films in my top 10 where I'm like, they can't stay in my top 10, can they? These shouldn't be films in my top 10 of the year. Now, thankfully, some of those did end up getting pushed out as the year went on, but they're still not as far out of my top 10 as maybe I feel like they should be. And I feel like the decline in box office from 2023 to 2024, which was about 10%, I think that kind of supports my thoughts that other people had a similar kind of thought as I do. But even though there's not a ton of films I can say I absolutely positively love in 2024, there's still a lot of really good films, and so I'm very excited to talk about these. And also, real quick, just a couple of things about my top 10 list. I have still not been able to go out and see Wicked yet. I think, based on what everybody else is saying, that Wicked probably would make my top 10, even though I don't necessarily think the trailers were all that good. I wasn't necessarily super excited for it. I do feel like, based off of what I've heard a lot of other people say, what I've heard some of my friends say, I think it probably would make my top 10. So just keep that in mind whenever I do get around to watching it. I will definitely update you in a video just real quick at the beginning of one of them. But before we jump into my top 10 list, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. We're getting closer and closer to 300 subscribers, so if you're new here, please consider subscribing. It would absolutely make my day. And if you're not new here, please share this video around with any friends or family. It can really help the channel grow. Coming in at number 10 on my list is Civil War, directed by Alex Garland. Civil War is actually one of the films relatively recently I reviewed on this channel. I was a little bit late getting around to watching it, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very good film. I loved the performances from everybody in this, but the performances in this film is really what sets this apart. Kirsten Dunst is really good. Wagner Moura, Kaylee Spaney, they're all really, really good. I think this is kind of the film that made me a really big Kaylee Spaney fan. She's awesome in this, and I can't wait to see her in more stuff. This is definitely a dark story. It definitely has a lot of heaviness to the tone of it, but I think they handled that heaviness very well. But I will say, I understand if Civil War is not really your movie. I have a couple of friends who saw it. They absolutely hated it. And I'm like, as understandable, I suppose. But for me, I really like Civil War. That's in my top 10 of the year. Coming in at number 9 is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, to be completely honest, when I was going through my list, I kind of forgot that this came out this year. It came out at the very beginning of the year, I think in March. But I thought this was an absolutely wonderful continuation from the story that had been set up in the previous 3 Planet of the Apes films. This film was directed by Wes Ball, and he did a fantastic job with this. This film takes place several generations after the reign of Caesar, and it's just very interesting to see where this world is at and kind of how some of these characters end up twisting what Caesar really believed. And I think they dive into a lot of really interesting character things, and they make you care for these characters. Don't know completely what their plans are, but if this is the start of another Planet of the Apes trilogy, I think we're in good hands, and I'm very excited to see where this story goes. I had so much fun watching this film, and this is just a really good film all the way through. If you enjoyed the previous Planet of the Apes films, I truly believe that you will really enjoy this film. Coming in at number 8 is The Fall Guy. Directed by David Leitch and starring Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. The Fall Guy is really just such a love letter to filmmaking and even more specifically to stunts in film. And every single stunt in this film is incredible. I absolutely loved it. I thought the story was a lot of fun. Ryan Gosling is so charming in this. I mean, he always is, but he's great here. I think the little bits we have with Aaron Taylor Johnson is really good. Emily Blunt plays a really good love interest. But overall, I think The Fall Guy is a film made for film fans and especially made for action film fans. I had so much fun with this, and it definitely deserves a spot on my top 10. Coming in at number 7 on my list is Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Now, before I saw the movie, did I think it would land in my top 10 of the year? No, I didn't. But I really, really enjoyed this film. This was just a lot of fun. They took what worked from the first two Sonic movies and they just continued that and they expanded upon it here. And this film is really just such a great adaptation of the Sonic Adventure 2 game. Ben Schwartz is awesome as Sonic. Keanu Reeves is perfect as Shadow. They do the character of Shadow justice. Jim Carrey is basically peak Jim Carrey as Ivo and Gerald Robotnik. This is just a film franchise that has really embraced the fun of just the video game franchise, and they translate everything so well to film. They tell just fun, simple stories where you just get to hang out with these characters and fall in love with these characters. It has some great action, and honestly, I've kind of been listening to the score on repeat since watching it. So this was definitely a big surprise for me. I thought I'd like it, didn't really expect to love it. But for me, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 definitely deserves a spot on my top 10. Coming in at number 6 is Furiosa, and this was a film that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. I feel like it just kind of came and went, and not many people went to go see it, which is unfortunate because it's very, very good. And I feel like the people who did see it just didn't really keep the conversation going. I thought Anya Taylor-Joy was really good in this. She gave a really good performance as a younger version of Furiosa, and Chris Hemsworth in this is just awesome as a over-the-top villain. The action in this is what you would expect from George Miller at this point in this franchise. I don't think it's quite as good as Mad Max Fury Road. However, I will say, if you enjoyed Mad Max Fury Road and you have not seen this, do yourself a favor and watch this film. I think you would absolutely love it. For this film, it's just kind of everything coming together. The performances, the cinematography, just the direction, the story, everything just comes together and makes a really, really good film. It's just such a great revenge story. Coming in at number 5 on my list is Inside Out 2. While I don't think that Inside Out 2 is as good as the first one, there's no shame in that because the first one is probably an all-time classic at this point. It's one of the best Pixar films, at least to me. But I think Inside Out 2 does a absolutely wonderful job following up Inside Out. I think this film works on a lot of different levels, but I think the thing that it kind of excels in the most is seamlessly introducing some new concepts and kind of just expanding the world inside of Riley's head. This film has all of the laughs and the heart that the first one has as well. And I really, really love how they handle these new emotions, especially as we get toward the end of the film. It's just something that, it warms my heart. As you might know, anxiety is one of the big characters in this film. And as somebody who from time to time does have anxiety, the way they dealt with it in this film is very, very smart, very, very clever, and it's just really, really nice. I think that's really the best way I could put it. Like, these writers, the director, just understands how to take these really big and dense concepts and break it down and visualize it in a way that just makes sense. Coming in at number 4 on my list is Twisters. This is another film where going into it, I thought I'd like it, but I did not think I would love it. I definitely didn't think it would be number 4 on my top 10. But I think Twisters does a really good job of, first of all, letting you into these characters' lives, letting you into their mental state. We really get to know these characters. We really get to care about these characters. Part of that is the writing, and then part of that is the performances from actors like Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell. This very easily could have just been like a big, dumb CGI fest summer blockbuster, but it was definitely more than that. You ended up caring for these characters. You ended up rooting for these characters to succeed, and you were worried every single time they were in danger. And speaking of the danger, all of the natural disaster tornado scenes they had were absolutely eye-catching. It's something that you definitely want to see on the biggest screen possible. And I was actually able to see this in 4DX, where the seats move, you have wind blowing in your face, there's like some mist and stuff like that. That was an incredible experience. So maybe that is kind of influencing how much I enjoyed this film, but I really don't think so. I thought the theater experience was a lot of fun, but the film itself was just really, really well done. For it to kind of be a legacy sequel, kind of, it could have just been thrown together, had the Twisters name slapped on it, and just be whatever. But I think it's way more than whatever. This is a very good film with some good characters, great action. And doing this list just reminds me, I need to go back and watch it again soon. Coming in at number 3 on my list is Smile 2. And I guess for me, 2024 was the year of surprises, because coming into Smile 2, I heard so many people online just talking about, oh, Smile 2 is really good. Naomi Scott definitely deserves an Oscar nomination. She's really good. And I just kind of thought, okay, sometimes the social media can just kind of blow things out of proportion. Like, this might be a good film, but I don't think it's going to be that good. I think it'll be fine. And then I watched Smile 2 and I was completely and utterly blown away. First of all, Smile 2 is incredibly brutal. It is such a brutal and at times hard to watch film. It is so creepy. If you don't know, I'm a big horror fan, so watching all of the horror films I do, there's not a ton of films that really kind of like stick with me. You know, like you close your eyes when you're going to sleep and you see flashes of the film. You know, you're walking through your house at night and you kind of think, oh, what's in that dark corner? There's not a lot that do that to me anymore, but this one did. This one really stuck with me. The scares all worked for me. But I think the thing that really elevates this is that they're able to capture this sense of paranoia and fear all through our main character, Skye, played by Naomi Scott. And I'll tell you right now, even though it won't happen because the Academy doesn't like horror, Naomi Scott, I think, gives the best performance of this year. The best performance, male or female, this year that I have seen. She was absolutely incredible. It is the best I've ever seen her. I know Naomi Scott is a talented actress, but this is just another level. She's very vulnerable in this role. It's not a glamorous role for her at all, but she dives right into it. She gets across the fear and the paranoia, and you see her mental state decline as the film goes on. It's all believable. And you can tell there's these moments where she's trying to be this, pop star, this famous person who's going on tour, trying to walk the walk of being this new and reformed pop star. But then sometimes she lets down her guard a little bit and you get to see who the real Skye is. And that just kind of small detail from Naomi Scott and her performance is just incredible. This film really keeps you guessing. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was completely and utterly blown away with this film. I got a couple other films to get to, or else I could talk about Smile 2 all day. So if you want to hear me talk more about Smile 2, I did a review a few weeks ago, so go back and check that out. Coming in at number 2 on my list is Dune 2. For me, Dune is kind of interesting because I tried watching the first Dune around the time when it came out, and I didn't like it. I couldn't even finish it. And so before Dune 2 came out, I was just thinking, I gotta watch the first one again. I gotta just like get through it. I want to see Dune 2. Everybody's raving about how good the first one is. I gotta see it. And so I went back, watched the first Dune, and I really liked it. I don't know what my issue was the first time. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it, but I really, really enjoyed the first Dune, and I liked Dune 2 even more. I'm afraid that Dune 2 is going to kind of get looked over at the Oscars just because of how early it came out in the year, but this film definitely deserves some Oscars. I think Timothée Chalamet probably deserves a Best Actor nomination. He was so good in this. You could see his transformation from the beginning to the end of the film, and by the end, he's this strong and powerful, charismatic leader that I didn't necessarily see him being able to deliver, but he did. The cinematography in this is absolutely beautiful. This is just such a well shot film. This is one of the movies where you can basically pause the film at any time and boom, there you go. There's your new beautiful phone or computer wallpaper. I think this film was paced beautifully. It never felt like it was dragging. It never felt like it was rushing. Even all of the side characters were very fleshed out. We understood where their characters were coming from. Javier Bardem was great. Zendaya was good. And honestly, I'm not typically the biggest fan of Zendaya. I think she kind of sort of plays the same role in every single movie, but I would say that she was still good in this. Austin Butler is awesome in this. He was just such a fun villain. Really, everything you can think about this film is just top notch. The score, the direction, the cinematography, even the color grading, the performances, the writing, everything is just so well done. And I'll say this film really turned me into a Dune fan. I'm super, super excited to see what they do with the third one. But coming in at number 1 on my list is Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine being number 1 on my list may or may not be a surprise, but I love basically everything that they were able to accomplish with this film. First of all, this was a film that we were wanting for a long, long time. We wanted Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman together as Deadpool and Wolverine, and this film absolutely delivers. I feel like this film not only gives us what we want, but it gives us what we need from these characters. They do such a clever job of addressing the whole Wolverine coming back after Logan thing. And even though technically this Wolverine we have in this film is new to us, this is a Wolverine technically we haven't really ever seen before, but they make it work and they make us care so much about this new version of Wolverine. Part of that is the writing, but also part of it is Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman really is incredible in this film. He shows why nobody else has been Wolverine over the past 25 years. He has such an understanding of this character, and every time he has to take on a new kind of twist to this character, he absolutely nails it. There's so many emotional scenes in this that really, really are effective. And some people might be surprised by that, but at this point, considering how many emotional scenes that actually worked in the first 2 Deadpool films, I'm not super surprised. I'm just very happy with the results. Ryan Reynolds is perfect as Deadpool. He's up on the Mount Rushmore of superhero casting with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. The action in this all throughout is awesome. All of the different multiverse elements that they bring in really works. It had a chance to get very messy very quick, but everything is so cohesive, everything makes sense, everything is so simple. And then this film is just really, really funny. Honestly, I really can't think of a joke that didn't really land for me. Basically, all of the jokes worked for me, which honestly is kind of new for a Deadpool film. Even though I love the other two, there were definitely a handful of jokes I could point to and say, I didn't like that. That wasn't that funny. But for here, everything just kind of worked for me. All of the cameos in this make sense and were a lot of fun. And honestly, this whole film was kind of a celebration of the Fox Marvel films. Deadpool and Wolverine was the film I was most looking forward to this year, and I think it definitely lived up to the hype. It lived up to my expectations. This was my favorite film of the year. But that's it. That's my top 10 films of 2024. What do you think about my list? I'm sure there's some on my list that are not on yours, and I'm sure there's some on your list that were not on mine. Let me know in the comment section down below what those were, and let me know what your favorite film of 2024 was. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. You can follow me on social media pretty much anywhere at CinemaSeth, and I'll see you next time.